Hi, I'm Chad, and you're watching Squarebody Stuff. What's going on, everybody? If you've been following along, our last few videos here on this channel have been about that little guy sitting on the engine stand, that little 339 stroker. Now we're gonna have to take a little break from building that thing because we have got to get old Squeaky here ready for the track. I know everybody's excited about getting this 339 done. I'm excited about getting it done. It's getting closer and closer. If you watched our last video, got the bottom end fairly well buttoned up. Yeah, it's getting closer and closer. But in the meantime, old Squeaky's got a perfectly fine running big block underneath the hood. Nothing real special. Gen 5 454, got a little bit of a cam in it. Nothing real special, mainly just a truck cam. 781 heads. I've done a little bit of tickling on the ports on those. Headers, aluminum intake, 850 Holly, and that little plate underneath the carburetor is a Nitrous Express mainline 1000 plate. I believe right now I've got the 150 shot jets in there. We've also got our Nitrous Express controller right here. Their maximizer easy. This will control the ramp in time of the nitrous. That should help out on the launches with this thing. Being a manual transmission, being heavy, all that stuff, it should help with the ramp in of everything and not be so violent right off the line. The main reason we got him up in the air like this is I've got to build some drive shaft loops. Now, if you were watching this last fall when we went to Sykeston, kind of the first trip out with this truck with the big block and his current configuration, we didn't even make it all the way down the drag strip and the drive shaft twisted. The reason it did that is because the drive shaft was just too long for the size of tubing it was. And my drive shaft guy said, this is gonna happen. And I said, let's build it anyways. So yeah, it happened. But hey, we repaired the drive shaft and made it to the burnout contest later that evening. I've done pretty good on that. That was a lot of fun. So fast forward to today, the drive shaft loop that was in this truck, it kind of got messed up. So I'm going to start over on the drive shaft loop situation. And also, this has got a two-piece drive shaft back in it like it was from the factory. I've got a video on that where I put the two-piece drive shaft back in it. But instead of the rubber housing carrier bearing, I've got a solid 2-bolt pillow block bearing as a carrier bearing. So now that I've got two drive shafts, I've got to have two drive shaft safety loops. And yeah, that way I keep the drive shaft in there if something does come loose. Now don't worry, we will be getting back to that little guy just as soon as it possibly can. It'll be together before we know it. So just stay tuned on that. Man, we need to get old Squeaky to the track. The track is fixing to open up hopefully next weekend. I'm filming this on Friday the 10th of March. So we were hoping to be able to go to the track tomorrow, the 11th, but the weather's not going to participate. And yeah, so they canceled it, the first opening of the track. So they'll postpone it till next weekend. So anyways, gives us an extra week to get this thing done, which is good because I was pushing for time. All right, so what I've got for the drive shaft safety loops is a piece of 1/4-inch wall of 5-inch tubing and some 1x2 rectangle tubing. I think it's 1/8-inch wall. So that's the material I've got to make the loops out of. Not exactly sure how I'm going to do it. I've been underneath the truck kind of scoping things out. I want to do it a little bit different than I did the last one. The last one was kind of a quick, down and dirty, yeah, make it work kind of deal. I'm going to do a little better job on this one, make it a little more user-friendly. Of course, I got to make this legal for all the all drag racing associations, the IAHRA, NHRA, AHRA, which they all pretty much have the same rules. It's got to be 1/4 inch thick, 2 inches wide, and no more than 6 inches away from your front U-joint. That should be pretty easy. I've got a lot of real estate underneath there. And so, yeah, I'm just gonna cut out, I'm gonna go maybe 3 or 4 inch wide pieces of this tubing. so I have a little extra meat around there. Why not? That just give me more room to mounting underneath the truck. Well, first I need to get the drive shaft out of there. Not a big deal there, just standard stuff, so I'm not going to video any of that. It's just a few bolts. Get it out of there so I can get these loops stuck around the shaft and then start fitting some stuff up. Well, I got the front loop the way I want it. I'm going to drag you underneath there and show you what I got. Well, it looks somewhat like a Star Wars spaceship or something like that, but it is welded solid to the cross member. That way it's not actually part of the truck frame. It's removable if need be, but it's good and solid. It'll work. Similar to what I did on the front one, I've got a mark on my drive shaft at 6 inches, and I actually made the mark from the very front of the U-joint. I think the rules are from the center of the U-joint to the front of your loop should be 6 inches, but I just went from the front. Got a 3-inch loop, which you're only supposed to have 2-inch. You know, might as well go a little bit overboard. What my plans are here is to take some of the 2-inch square tubing or 2x1 square tubing, raise this up where it's kind of centered on the shaft, and come up at an angle to this cross member on both sides and weld it to this cross member. Now it will be solid to the truck, but it won't be any big deal. It's Squeaky, he don't care. If I need to, I can cut it back off, but for now I think that's gonna work. And I might even surprise you guys and paint this stuff. So what I've got so far for the rear one is I've got these two pieces tacked onto this. That's 1/4 inch spacers. It's a 1/4 inch off the bottom of it. This is towards the front of the truck on this side. And it's kind of, I don't know if you can really see it on the camera or not, but I've got some lines scribed on my table to kind of lay out where I want it. And from the top of this to the cross member should be around 5 1/4 roughly. So I made a line and I've transferred that line straight across to here. So if I cut these off right here, this should just set up there on that cross member and pretty well be centered on my drive shaft as far as up and down. I may have to adjust a little bit. And then I got to make sure I've got enough room for the travel of the drive shaft going up and down, which this suspension doesn't have a whole lot of travel, so I shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Well, I run into just a little bit of a snag on the rear drive shaft loop. With it being just round, I was hoping it would be big enough in diameter to not get in the way with the suspension at full travel, which more than likely this truck should never have the suspension completely at bottomed out full travel, but you never know. I may jump this thing, do some Dukes of Hazzard stuff, who knows. But I jacked it up at the frame, let the axle down, and it just barely touches the drive shaft loop, so we can't have that. So what I'm going to do is split it and add a little piece of 1/4 inch flat stock in there to give it a little bit of oval shape. Now what I did do to make sure it wasn't going to hit on the compression side of stuff is I took my leaf springs loose. I took my upper shackle bolts out, and I actually had to take my bed loose so the springs would go all the way up, and raise the axle up until it hit the frame, and I still got plenty of room, at least a 3/4 of an inch on my drive shaft loop, which I don't have any lights on underneath there, but you can kind of see what I got going on. But right now I need to split it, add a piece in, and get it stuck back in there. Then that should be done with that. Well, I got that drive shaft loop figured out, got it up underneath there, and I even got everything painted. Well, there's the front one. It ought to work. And there's the rear one. Got enough room for it to droop. Should never have any problem with that. Got it all painted up. And everything's tightened up. I've got to go back through every nut and bolt underneath here just to make sure everything's tight. Now that's going to be for a later date. I got a few more things left to do to the truck before I take it to the track. Double check every nut and bolt underneath it, make sure I don't have anything loose. I took the long tubes off, and I'll be putting on these short little header extensions. Thinking about even taking the front bumper back off of them just to save a little bit of weight. Don't know if it'll help any, who knows. It looks kind of cool without a front bumper. I get these guys all cleaned up, and I kind of played around. I got a paint marker, and I like the white letters, so I'm gonna paint the letters on these, redo the ones on the Hoosiers on the back. I also got to put metal valve stems in these. I think we're supposed to have metal valve stems for the drag strip, and right now they just got rubber ones. Yeah, still a little bit of stuff to do to the truck, but that'll be next time because I'm out of time tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this video off. So until next time, y'all keep your square bodies rolling. We'll catch you later.